How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Junction podcast. We are here for episode 51 tonight, and we have an awesome guest with us, and that's GameXplain. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me.
Of course, we've got Ahmer. How are you?
Howdy.
And then just to let you guys know, this episode is sponsored by TimelessGamer.net. And TimelessGamer.net is an awesome website that brings like video game news, really cool articles, different things with retro and modern gaming. And we wanted to shout out an article that we saw that was pretty cool. And that is 10 years ago, Mike Tyson played Punch-Out for the first time terribly. And so you want to check that one out because it's really interesting read. And that is on TimelessGamer.net. Appreciate it. And we'll go ahead and get started.
Yes. So we have a special guest today, and I'm super excited because, like you guys in the comments on some of our posts, you guys had some questions, and we have tons of questions too. So, yes, we already have a bunch of people in the chat. Howdy, everyone. We have Thinking Inside the Box, Carl. We have Changeling. Is that Changeling?
Yeah, I think so.
Changeling. Super Aiden 03. Dan, and everyone's just saying hi, so we do appreciate it. And if you guys do have any questions, go ahead and drop them in the comments as we, continue on. But we'll just go ahead and introduce you. What is it, even though a lot of people already know, a whole lot of people, what is it that you do in the gaming community?
Yeah, so I run the YouTube channel GameXplain. We cover, a wide variety of games, but we're known for our focus on Nintendo. So we cover, all kinds of Nintendo games like Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, ARMS. I don't know why I brought that up as a key example. We haven't covered ARMS in a while. We're always analyzing the newest trailers, discussing stuff, doing live streams. So we're all over the Nintendo stuff. We cover some other things too, including Sony, Xbox, occasional VR coverage. So we're kind of all over the place.
I love it.
Very cool. Yes, we are big Nintendo fans. But
I couldn't tell. I would never guessed.
We do like a little bit of everything, though, so I think that's great. And a lot of people in our chat, they are, big gaming fans of everything, retro, modern, just a little bit of everything. So I think we're all, kind of on the same page here.
Yeah, mostly Nintendo, but a little bit of everything.
Yeah, yes. That's where we're at. we did a PlayStation trivia just this past weekend, and like, you know what? Nintendo trivia is about 10 times easier than PlayStation. Yeah. I think in general, it's just more established. It's like the Disney of gaming.
Right. Even people who don't play Nintendo games know a lot about Nintendo,
Yep.
And it was, easier to, think of questions. Like, PlayStation, we're, getting down to, the, craziest thing. And then, you ask the question and no one's hand goes up and you're like, hint, it rhymes with Mash and a coot.
I feel like I could come up with Virtual Boy trivia better than I could for something like, I don't know, even the PSVR, the PSP or something. I play all those and I love them, but it's easier. I don't know why.
It does feel like for all of its failure, the Virtual Boy made a bigger impact than PSVR 2 somehow.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think I've played my Virtual Boy more than my PlayStation VR. One.
Wow. Yeah. Hey, Mario Tennis is a fun game on that system. So
it is, and the whole depth of it, it really is. It's revolutionary. I don't know how it failed. I don't know.
I don't get it. It's not like it was all red or anything.
Yeah, not that it was bad for your eyes or anything either, but come on.
Yeah. I agree. I've been messing with this Hyper Flash 32 here recently, so I've been diving back in. And there's some demos and homebrews and stuff that I've never played. Kind of cool. Get to mess with it again. Kind of, some interesting stuff on there that people probably don't.
Mm-hmm.
Significantly more Japanese out here. It's kind of cool to get to play some of that.
Yeah.
And some of the homebrews and stuff too. What is it, the hyper fighting or something like that? It's like Street Fighter.
Yep.
But on that system,
there's
come
a homebrew community? I had no idea.
Missed opportunity. You could have had another Street Fighter game. Like,
And it's really
we
good
needed more.
too. Like it runs perfect. Like it's like 60 frames. It's crazy. It's pretty neat.
That's
Yep.
really impressive. Yeah.
Thinking inside the box said headache alert.
He's always giving a hard time about virtual.
Yeah, because if it's not Xbox, it's not the
Yeah,
best, right?
yeah. What is it about that? Like, there's other
Because
things of it,
Xbox is better. Is that right?
apparently. Yeah. So, essentially, we've got. Oh, I got to pull this out too. Changeling said, with that edgy, unnecessary number added. Oh, he's talking about his
No,
name.
the name. The name.
Yeah. It's a little hard to
Yes.
say.
And we have Escalated Friend in the chat, and Escalated Friend did actually ask a question that we kind of hinted on a little bit, so I guess I'll throw it out before the community questions, because there were multiple questions. What made you start GameXplain?
That's perfect.
Yeah. I've got to think back now. It's been 13 years. I think, so I always had an interest in, I'd say always, but like when I was in my mid to late teens, I was interested in doing video production online. So this was back in the late 90s. And, back before anyone was doing video online at all. And I was probably one of the first, if only, I was going to say YouTuber. YouTube was even a thing then. One of the only people making Nintendo videos way back in the day, before there was even like, streaming or a good media player. Even most people were on 56K back then. So I started making videos. They went nowhere. Like, no one really watched them. It was hard to, find an audience back then. So I kind of abandoned the idea, and then I went on to go work at websites like IGN and GameSpot. But then eventually, I realized this YouTube thing's taking off. I'm like, oh, video's kind of becoming a big deal. I remember how to somewhat make videos from a few years back. Let me try my hand at it again. So I quit my job, decided to start making my own videos on GameXplain. And part of the incentive as well was, I've always been like self-driven. I've always wanted to do my own thing, but I also paired that with like, my passion for Nintendo especially, and I felt like I wasn't seeing a lot of like really passionate Nintendo videos at that time. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to try and be one of the first. There were others, of course, too, but I wanted to, get in there early and try doing my own thing. And I was really driven on just giving Nintendo the attention I feel like Microsoft and Sony were getting, except only in the Nintendo space. And so, here I am now 13 years later doing basically the same thing. Hopefully a little bit better than when I started off, but by and large the same.
Yeah, I think I would think, as you start out, you definitely have to get better. But are you like us? Do you watch some of your beginning videos and kind of like cringe a little?
Yeah, every now and then I don't go out of my way to do it, but like if I'm, looking into something like, hey, what did I do back then for this game? Or, maybe I'm just randomly looking up for a compilation or something. I'll go back and listen to it and like cringe at my delivery back then. Like I have like no, it feels like I have no passion, no energy, and it just feels super dry. I'm like, oh man, I can't listen to those these days. But maybe 10 years from now, I'll be looking back at my current videos and be like, what was I thinking with this, currently?
Like, I really feel bad for the people that were watching me then.
Yeah, exactly, right.
How are they doing
it? Oh man,
yeah,
that's definitely a thing I hear.
Yeah, no, I love Nintendo stuff. So like, I used to work with PS and stuff like that. So I definitely feel like that sort of passion. There definitely was during that time. You're very right. It was very heavy on the Xbox and PlayStation. Very early on, there just was not, Nintendo wasn't mature and all
right.
It was like a baby system.
Yeah, and now it's kind of flipped on its head. It's different. It's different. Like it's just totally different now, and I kind of weird how that works.
Yeah, it is kind of weird because when I started, it was during the height of the Wii era, which of course was a huge success, but it was a huge success within certain demographics. For the hardcore gamer, hardcore in quotes, whatever that means, but they were still gravitating toward PlayStation and Xbox, so that's where a lot of coverage is still focused on. So you didn't see a whole lot of coverage of like, Wii Sports and whatever else Nintendo was putting out aside from their biggest games. But it is interesting now to see how far we've come, because after that, of course, Nintendo, basically failed with the Wii U, but then has since climbed to the top with the Switch, which everyone has and is playing. So
yeah, that was a rough time covering news and all that stuff during the Wii. 3DS was great with coverage, but covering the Wii U stuff was rough.
There were big gaps where there just wasn't much anything happening. You know, it was basically only Nintendo at that point, and it was even worse than the GameCube, where we had a similar situation with that in that case too. But the Wii U was like basically just Nintendo's games, and whenever there wasn't one, there was not much to talk about.
Yeah, it would have to be all like third-party stuff, you know,
Right.
stuff on the shop, like console stuff, which was great, man. God, I wish Virtual Console stuff was great for the. I mean, even the Wii having turbo graphics and all that stuff was crazy.
Right. Yeah, all those classic systems, and yeah, I've seen a lot of love for the Virtual Console more recently. You know, it seems like it definitely has some people have a lot of nostalgia for it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so you know, tell us a little about because we were talking about this last week, actually, just a few days ago, really. You know, the Switch 2 stuff's pretty crazy, right? Kind of all over the place. I want to hear, you know, sort of your take on that. What you had to say about that, because I know our audience loves Switch 2 stuff and all that rumored stuff.
Yeah, it's so weird for me because on the one hand, like we've had the Switch for what we're entering its 7th year, I believe, which is a long time, especially for a Nintendo platform. On the other hand, like I look at that thing, and obviously it's dated in many respects, you know, graphically and horsepower wise. But like I'm playing games like Tears of the Kingdom or you know any number of indie games that look amazing. I'm like that thing still feels like it doesn't feel old to me. You know, it still feels like a modern system. So I'm not, you know, super thirsty for a new Nintendo console, but at the same time, it's like, you know what? I want to see what Nintendo can do on newer hardware, you know? So I'm excited, but I'm not like, you know, I don't need it. But, you know, with that being said, I've been kind of saying this to an extent for like years now. I feel like we've been on the cusp of a Switch successor for 3 or 4 years at this point, or at least 2 to 3. But I feel like this next year is probably the time. Like, there's been a lot of more credible rumors coming out, and it seems like it's probably going to happen within this next year period or so. And yeah, I'm excited to see what they do with it. Like I expect it to basically be a Switch 2. I think it'd be silly of them to do anything other than that. It's when they're basically the most successful system of all time. It would be ridiculous not to me to take a risk and do anything other than a direct successor to it. But then we have comments from Nintendo recently, as they've said before, where they do want to continue to innovate and, you know, surprise gamers with something new. And I don't even know what that would be at this point. Like, I don't know what else you can really do with a Switch's form factor that would really surprise people. Maybe they have something up their sleeve. I hope they do, but I love being surprised, but I don't even know what it would be.
Yeah. So you're seeing the stuff right now about them not going with OLED and it's going to be LCD. Also seeing, you know, there's like a side of the audience that thinks it's not going to be a hybrid console, which to me is crazy. They would even, you know, that anybody would even think that, at least to me.
Yeah.
Like they've been so successful with this, I can't imagine abandoned the concept without getting like a second attempt at it. You can get a Switch Pro. Like this is it. Like I feel like we are definitely hybrids.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, a funny thing is, if everyone keeps having these rumors, eventually one year they're going to be right.
That's the thing about these rumors. Eventually someone's going to nail it. You know, they're going to have to be right eventually. But yeah, it does. I mean, I don't know how much longer Nintendo can keep up with the current hardware, though. Again, they've done a pretty good job so far. But yeah, it's hard to imagine them doing anything but a hybrid console. It just doesn't make sense to me. So
yeah, and I can't see them like, you know, separating back to going having a portable handheld system that's specifically for that with its own library and, you know, a home console that has its own library. And I think that's kind of dead in the water. I don't see that happening.
Especially because there's so little competition. I mean, it took up until the past year where Nintendo finally had a competitor of sorts with the Switch, with the Steam Deck, and that, you know, that by and large, I mean, that seems to be a successful system for what it is, but it's not really a true competitor to the Switch because it's not being supported by exclusive games, and, you know, it's just another avenue of playing PC games, which is awesome. But I feel like with Nintendo still having this, you know, this unique hybrid market basically in a lockdown, it makes no sense to diverge from that and go head-to-head competing with the Xbox and PlayStation again. I just don't understand why anyone would expect them or even want them to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Yeah, we're going to get a Switch too. I think it's going to be late.
Yeah.
Some of those rumors seeing is probably pretty accurate.
Yeah, there were some rumblings. I think there always are of it being announced this year, potentially soon, and we're gonna know real quick whether that's true or not. I imagine whether anything comes out from Gamescom and PAX and whatever the September Direct is. I assume there being a September Direct, and I think we're gonna maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like we're not gonna see anything at Switch 2 this year, especially because it's almost impossible for it to launch the same year. And with how big the holiday season is for Nintendo historically, it doesn't make sense for them to announce a new successor when they still want to sell the current Switch in this, this Christmas. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I don't see it coming this year. Isn't it crazy the sales we're still getting on Mario Kart 8 Deluxe?
It's still absurd. It's still in the top 3 games or whatever it is. It's still in the number 1 overall in the system. It's insane. Which on the one hand, I'm happy. Like I'm glad people are able to enjoy that game. You know what? Here's the main reason I want to Switch 2. Actually, I want a new Mario Kart game. I like Mario Kart 8 a lot, but 10 years of it is a lot. So I'm ready for the next Mario Kart, and they seem to only do 1 per system. So that's why I want to Switch 2.
I agree.
It could be like Grand Theft Auto 5 and just survive several systems.
Right.
And if they did bring it to the successor,
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Super Deluxe.
Deluxe bonus.
It'd be great if we got something like a Smash Brothers Ultimate, filing everything in it, just bringing everything to the game. Give us like 12 new courses or whatever. I forget what the standard is for the game, and then all the characters. I want the arcade characters, Pac-Man, all those guys. I want everything.
Yeah. Let's just
that would be cool because we've never had any of the arcade content in a console Mario Kart.
Yeah, I think it would be great. Even bring in the tour stuff, like just bring it all. I mean, we're getting that now with passes, but I think that'd be pretty sure. But yeah, I mean, so Tears of the Kingdom, have you completed the game?
Well, I mean, I beat the final boss, but if you can keep playing the game for probably decades after that point. But I beat it. I consider myself done with it. So yes.
Yeah, I'm playing through it. I think I'm 45-ish hour. I'm nowhere even the story. It's been a lot of me running around doing stuff. Now I'm to the point where I'm like, okay, I just got to get the story done. Like, I'm not ever going to be able to play anything else ever again.
It's so easy to get sidetracked by any number of things in that game. It just never accomplish your key objective.
Yeah. I mean, there's been a bunch of stuff that's came out since. Just totally have not touched it. Pikmin, 4. I need to get to Pikmin 4. Like, it just keeps going and going and going, and stories.
Just never-ending backlog. Never ending.
Yeah, there's so many games too. Like it's just nonstop. Especially if you own every platform. I don't know how you keep up with it. There's just too much to play. You can't. Yeah, and with how big games are getting too, being dozens of hours. Like a lot of people. We saw this recently with a couple of examples. But some people are like, this game's not worth this price at this amount, or I want this game to be longer. I'm like, no, give me those 3-hour experiences. Like, I want more of those. I can fit those in. I can fit in a 3 to 5 hour game. These 60 to 100-hour games, I can't do it. I've got one of me maybe a year, and that's it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I'm all in. So Pikmin 4, have you played Pikmin 4? I take it.
Yep, I finished that too. Yeah.
How was it?
It's good. I don't think I quite like it quite as much as everyone else seems to, because I'm a you've got the Gen 1er Pokemon fans. I'm a Gen 1er Pikmin fan. One of the things I loved about Pikmin originally was its time limit. Like, I loved having that 30-day cap, and this game doesn't quite have that, so I was a little disappointed in that sense. So there is a side mode in the game which kind of does, or straight up does. I'm like, yes, I love that. So the game overall is good. I just, I felt like I needed external pressure to really motivate me to play well, and without that, I'm like, I can just kind of dilly-dally and do whatever I want very casually, which isn't quite the Pikmin experience that I really liked at Pikmin 1, and to a lesser extent, Pikmin 3.
Yeah. How long did it take you to...
Probably about 40 hours, and I 100%ed a few of the, most of the regions, but not all of it, and there's even more you can do beyond what I did after you beat the game. So yeah, so if you want 100% everything, you're probably looking at north of 50 hours, I'd guess, but about 40 hours to pretty casually play through most of it. So
Awesome. Yeah, I'm
and
looking
Ochi's
forward to
awesome. I love
playing it.
Ochi.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing it for sure. I liked 3. I'm kind of there with you with the time limit because it added a sort of pressure of getting things done. So I'm kind of there with you. I like that sort of thing. This game.
Yeah, it seems a little
So
divisive in general. Like Majora's Mask had the time limit too, and I loved it then, but a lot of people hated it.
yeah, yeah, people definitely hated it. So speaking of like Majora's Mask, where are you with retro games? Is that something that you're now? Are you checking out any stuff?
Yeah, I ebb and flow with it. I sometimes I go through these retro kicks where I'll go back and play through games, or I was over the last couple of years, I've been checking out a lot of used game stores, buying up a lot of like older games I either played or I missed back then and want to check out. Like when I got an Analog Pocket a couple of years ago, and I was obsessed during that for a while. I was playing all the Game Boy games that I missed and the ones I grew up with. And yeah, so that was a ton of fun. So yeah, and it's something I find more interesting now, especially from a YouTuber perspective, is just more going back and analyzing it from like a gameplay sense. Like, hey, how's this game hold up, and how did it influence future games? Like, I recently just last week was replaying A Link to the Past, and it's so interesting to chart how much that influenced subsequent Zelda games. That's easy to forget. Like, I've heard some people go back and they're like, this game feels generic. I'm like, it's because it invented everything that Zelda is now. Like, it can all be traced back to this one game. So if you missed it, then I can see how it might come across that way. But I think it's just so interesting to go back and see the roots of all these game series are still going strong decades later.
Yes, and I feel like that's a great mindset to have because so many people, we have our retro fans as well who love the retro gaming. We also like collect the older stuff as well and newer stuff. There's always a balance. But so many people are like, "Oh, that game's crap. They aren't the same as today." Well, you got to appreciate where they came from, It's without that we wouldn't have this like masterpiece of a game or we wouldn't have what had ultimately failed versus what they have tried new. So, I mean, you have to appreciate all of that.
Yeah, there's so much that goes into these games, at the time of their release that can get lost over time. That's why I think it's, that's why I love watching, YouTube essays or breakdowns about, what made this game special at the time that you may not have the full context for. When you go back and play these days, and again, like with A Link to the Past example, like if you play all the modern Zelda games, I can see why it may not impress you, but it's like, again, so much of everything, not just even Zelda, but it influenced so many other games beyond its own series, and it's so, again, easy to overlook that if you don't have knowledge of this is where it all started. It's kind of like how going back, it's like Hitchcock films, in many cases you go back and like, what's special about this? Like, well, he invented this. Like, a lot of what you see in modern filmmaking came from Hitchcock and any number of directors, of course. So,
yeah, I think Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are very much like closest to the first Zelda than like any other game in the series.
Yeah, I kind of love that. I came full circle that Zelda is so popular again because it's mirroring what it did originally. Like, there is something kind of poetic about that.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. Do you think that Tears of the Kingdom will surpass the sales on Wild?
That's tough. I mean, I know it blew up initially. I haven't tracked its sales too much since then, but I think from what I've picked up in passing, it sounds like it's still selling extremely well. I'm gonna say yes, if only because if I'm going to assume it will either carry over to Switch 2, or there'll be like a deluxe version or a patch that makes it even better on Switch 2, where I think eventually it will catch up to Breath of the Wild and surpass it. It may take it several years, but I think it will get there.
Breath of the Wild sales are crazy. I mean, just insane. Still selling.
Top selling Zelda ever. So yeah.
Yeah, I think having those. I saw somebody bring this up, and they were bringing up how it very much has like those Minecraft and Roblox elements. So you're getting a lot of the audience from like those games over to Zelda that never would have touched it before. And I feel like I see like all these YouTube shorts now like pop up, when I'm typing and trying to figure out a part or whatever I might look up. Now they're like popping up all the time. It's just people building stuff. I feel like that could be a thing that makes it boring. So
If they add a way to share your creations, like if I can download someone else's like mech that they made in Tears of the Kingdom, that'd be huge. Like that would add a brand new second life. I mean, not that it's died already, but like that would inject new life into it whenever it happens. And I hope they do that. That would be they could do kind of like the Tingle bottles from the Wind Waker HD port. If they do something along those lines, where you could come across or download random creations, that'd be amazing.
I agree.
Yeah, that definitely hit a whole new like target audience type of thing.
Yeah, especially because for me, like I don't have much. I didn't feel like I see all these awesome creations. I'm like, oh man, that's so cool. I'm never gonna make that. Like the amount of work that goes into that, I'm like, I didn't feel an incentive to do it. But if I know, one, I would love to be able to download other people's creations. But two, if I know that I can share my own creation and like put that out in the world, it's like that's another incentive for me to actually spend time with it and make something.
Yep, I agree with you. Do you think that we'll get any DLC in the way that we did for Breath of the Wild? Do you think it's gonna happen?
That's a good one. It's weird because they had announced the Breath of the Wild DLC before the game even came out, and they didn't do that in this case.
That's true.
So
I forgot about that.
I think we will. I'm sure we will get something. I think it could be again going with the Switch 2 idea. It's possible that maybe they'll make it exclusive to that platform. But I would be very surprised if we don't see some kind of DLC expansion for Tears of the Kingdom on some level, because it's a massive game. It's a massive platform on which they can continue to add to it. And I think it just makes sense to support this game that they spent 6 years on, meaning it might be another 5 or 6 years before we see another game in this series. So yeah, let's get it some DLC, even if the game is ridiculously long as it is.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, when they announced that term for it, but when they announced the motorcycle for Breath of the Wild, that was huge, and I'm pretty sure it was during the Game Award.
I believe that was correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was pretty big. Like Twitter blew up. Like someone's got a motorcycle.
Yeah, and now Tears of the Kingdom's like, hey, you thought motorcycles cool? Now you can build anything you want. You want to build a plane, a hot air balloon, whatever. Go nuts.
Yeah. Now it's just nothing. It's not even a thing.
Yeah, so we have a few people in the chat. I just want to hit some of these comments. So Thinking Inside the Box said, Nintendo is just blazing its own trail anymore, no longer really competing in the console war, I believe. As we were talking, I guess a little bit about like the lifespan, things like that. Changeling said the games that come out towards the end of the console's life tend to be the best technically. The Switch seems to be going through that with Tears of the Kingdom. And then people were also agreeing that they do want, so Thinking Inside the Box, Lionheart Game, Changeling, they were saying that they want more 6 to 10 hour games, and then give me more short games, no time for me ever. Too many open world games, haha. Thinking Inside the Box said, too many games designed to bleed you dry of money too. And then a lot of people were agreeing with the whole building and, being able to like import or whatever we're mentioning with that. So
yeah, heck yeah. I think I kind of did to marry those last few points together again, like with Tears of the Kingdom having so much user generated content, like that seems like a allowing some way to share it would be such a great way of adding longevity to the game without dipping into like the microtransactions that so many other games have, where you want more content, well pay us $5 $6 for horse armor or whatever the Fortnite skin is these days. Yeah, and again, Nintendo, I would say by and large is pretty good about this. I feel like I'm not nickel and dime too often, at least when it comes to like the game content. And again, if they add that shareability to Tears of the Kingdom, that'd be another great way of supporting that side of their some of their consumer friendly policies.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we're getting big story expansions for Scarlet and Violet. Still haven't gotten a performance patch. So, like, give us something.
That's ballsy, announcing like, hey, here's a brand new DLC that looks kind of cool, but the game still is kind of fundamentally broken.
Yeah.
Priorities, come on.
Yeah.
But it's Pokemon, so they kind of don't have to.
They can do whatever they want. It'll sell. Yeah.
It's not selling. It's not sold anywhere near like Sword and Shield. Sales are way lower, compared to those games. So I don't know. I think this one, they might eventually see that gotta put some
They
time
have to do
into the
something.
game. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because we don't want broken games when they come out. Like we talked about before in one of the episodes. Like we'd rather them take the time to polish a game, even if it's like past the release date, instead of just sending out a broken game. We would be fine with. I'm sure people would have something to say, but ultimately, we would all be fine if we were guaranteed that it would be much better.
Yeah, we don't need Pokemon. We don't need a new Pokemon every year to breed and live. We can survive without it. And I would prefer to have my first experience with any game to be as polished as possible, especially when it comes from a company that as well, as rich effectively as the Pokemon company is. Like they could survive for years without releasing a game and be totally fine. So the fact that they feel like they're on this treadmill where they can't get off, it's like you guys could make this work. It's just the main issue is it seems like that hasn't affected their sales yet, and until there's a monetary reason for them not to, do the same thing they have been and make tons of money, there's no reason for them to change. So really, the only way we can hope for that is that their sales start being affected, which I guess they may have been. I haven't been tracking their sales too much recently for the newest games, but they are seeing a hit. Then we may start seeing more polished games on a longer cycle to give them the time that they deserve. Hopefully.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like Arceus was, a much more polished game. That game was wonderful.
It was, yeah. I love how their like proto experimental open world game was, for me at least, much more of an interesting approach to it than Scarlet and Violet. So it's like, and they just kind of put that out there, seemingly out of nowhere in the same year as their other open world game. Very weird. Why do you need two open world games in the same year? But
exactly.
Yeah, very strange decision, but great game. And we're obviously going to see a direct sequel to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. Yeah,
it's so so well. Just blows me away. Yeah, that's their experiment, but their sequel to that, their mainline game, is broken.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, get the Legends team to make the next mainline Pokemon game. They know what they're doing, apparently.
Yeah. It looks like we got a few questions.
Yeah. Super Aiden is saying a couple different things. Saying that I don't mind that at all. I can wait patiently. So that's good to know. I think a lot of people should listen to that. And then also Super Aiden is saying, didn't you say you compared the building in the Tears of the Kingdom to nuts and bolts?
Yeah, Banjo-Kazooie nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a few hot takes on Twitter where I had a lot of fun with Tears of the Kingdom, but I feel like as an experience it's not as cohesive as Nuts and Bolts was. Like that game knew what it was. Like this game's all about vehicle creation. The entire world is built around that purpose, and you could share your creations in that game too to other people who have the game, and that was awesome. And in Tears of the Kingdom, it feels like you can build if you want to, or you can you don't have to really, except in a few cases. And you can't share things obviously. So I wish I had maybe taken a few pages more from Nuts and Bolts' book and built the experience even more around it, including the ability to share things. Yeah, I thought Nuts and Bolts was great, but a lot of people don't like it because it wasn't Banjo-Kazooie 3, which I get, but
true. Different audience, different,
Yeah, totally.
I thought Nuts and Bolts.
Yeah, once it got past the fact it wasn't the game that everyone thought it was going to be, it's actually pretty. I think it was ahead of its time. Like it was doing the whole user-generated content thing in a way that, again, has only really been matched now by Tears of the Kingdom, and even then in a very different way.
Mm-hmm.
I can see a lot more games taking this sort of nuts and bolts as and being implemented. People, love you see these viral videos. All this stuff. I feel like that sort of aspect's going to be implemented in so many games in the next 3, 4, 5 years. Just like we did with Breath of the Wild, all those sort of clones.
Right. Yeah. Especially that now that they've realized they can just reuse the same world and make a new game out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, speaking of that, something that I heard somebody else mention as well on Twitter a while ago. Do you think that they will get just a brand new Zelda game from scratch now after this? Because we've never really seen. We saw, Ocarina of Time. We got Majora's Mask built same engine, same assets. Do you think that we'll have something brand new as far as 3D Zelda? Or do you think they could try to, triple dip on the assets from?
That's a great question. I've wondered this myself as well. It's hard to say that I didn't expect them to go this route with Tears of the Kingdom originally either. I think it's possible they could triple dip. I think they would have. I think they know they would have to change up the world even more than they did. One idea I had was if they want, one of my favorite things I actually really liked in Tears of the Kingdom was using boats more often. Like, what if they went all in on the Wind Waker direction again? So, like, one thing they could do is like split up the world into different continents. Like maybe an earthquake happens or something, and it causes the world to split apart. And I think that would make it feel like very different if you're like sailing between regions now, and with each having its own unique coastline. And I think they could possibly get away with it, but at the same time, they may realize like, okay, we've already pushed this world as far as we can go. Maybe we do need to change it up for this new one. But I think there's a few other directions they could go too. I think what might be cool actually is the existing world isn't surrounded by water. Like there's parts of it that you just can't reach. Like in the desert or to the west, there's like a mountain range. Like it allowed us to traverse to that and just like expand the territory. That'd be fine too.
Yeah, no, I'm all in on something else. Like I think that'd be cool. It's just so hard for me to imagine assets. Like what could they do? It would have to really incredibly different as far as the visuals and performance and everything for the next system.
Especially
that I feel.
Especially when you consider that they've now had the inverted world effectively with the depths, and then they've had with the sky. We've now seen this world from a whole new perspective that they can't really match again. So yeah, the only way would be to fundamentally change how that world looks. Again, such by splitting it apart or doing some other crazy stuff to it.
Right. Yeah. I agree. You still haven't played it yet, have you, Brandy? She's like, I don't even know what's going on. I haven't played. She hates Zelda. That's clear.
No, I don't. I don't have a lot of time at the moment to try and invest into it, so I don't want to set myself up for failure. And I was just sorting through some questions, so I added some on the side that are coming in through the chat. So I'm just doing a couple behind the scenes things.
Yeah.
I swear I'm here.
Do you think that we'll for both of you guys? Somebody brought this up because we had that Pokemon Presents the other. Do you think that we'll get Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow brought Switch Online service, or do you think? I think that they could definitely sell them separate, and people would buy it. But I do wonder if they'll actually bring.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think the fact that we got the Pokemon trading card game might be a point in its favor, just because that was also, a classic Game Boy game of that era. Yeah. So I think it's possible. I just truly hope that if they do, that they bring the transfer pack functionality to Pokemon Stadium, especially now that Pokemon Stadium 2 is on it. And again, it's basically unplayable without using the built-in Pokemon. You need your own. So I think there's a good I think we will get it eventually, and I just hope that when we do, that it adds functionality to the N64 Pokemon Stadiums.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a missed opportunity if they don't. But I think when that like first happened, about like them adding certain Game Boy games, I think we actually talked a little bit about that, and we were saying, that we think that it's going to happen soon, and we thought that they were going to do that whole transfer pack, but obviously it didn't happen soon. And I'm a little shocked that it didn't. Like, that was kind of seems like a missed opportunity on their point, that they could have, brought that over, brought the fan base, brought all these like people, just for those reasons. A lot of people said they would, participate in all that. Some people even commented and said they would even buy a Switch just for that.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think they've ever really been officially re-released. It had the remakes, but I don't think they've ever been re-released, right? So it would be huge getting them on the Switch online service.
We did get it on 3DS, though, right? Didn't they?
Oh no, I think you're right.
The edition, remember the red and blue edition 3DS? It's like $800 now.
I did forget about that. I think.
Yeah. Right. So we did get it, and they brought that functionality too. Like there was functionality to it. It was, you could use it with Pokemon Home. So like if they did that with the Switch and made where online capabilities or did some things to it, like they don't have to. Still, people would gaga over it. But if they
That's
did,
another reason. Sorry.
no, you're good. No, I was finished. But if they did, I think it would be.
Yeah, I mean and you actually brought up another great point. Like having the online for these classic games is freaking awesome, especially for the Game Boy games, because it was so hard back in the day to play these games multiplayer. Pokemon was one of the rare exceptions, but even then, I didn't connect nearly as much as I wanted to, because you had to have someone with a Game Boy, the same copy of the game. You had to have a link cable. But now with the Switch Online service, like it works so well with the Game Boy. Like I was playing a trading card game online. It's a total blast. I'm like, I never had this experience as a kid, really. So that's another good reason why hopefully Pokemon does come, so we can finally play these games like with friends around the world in a way that they couldn't even imagine at the time of the game's original release.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it'd be awesome. Also, Pokemon trading card game is a phenomenal.
It's so good. It's so good. I don't know why they have not made a modern one. It's such a great game.
And there was a sequel to it too, but it was a Japan only release, which is, man, like if they did, localize that and gave us like and brought it to the service, I'd be all over that, because obviously I couldn't play it. I imported that back in the day in hopes that I could try to get around it, and that obviously didn't happen. Like you have to Japanese.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. They've done something similar with the original Famicom version of Fire Emblem, where they did translate that for its 40th anniversary. So there is a precedent, and also with Star Fox 2 never being released, finally coming to Switch Online as well. It's like, yeah, maybe they could make it work, and I hope they do, because I would love to play through it.
Yeah, I think that. Do you have more questions?
Aiden is saying, yes, we did, talking about the Pokemon games. I have yellow on my 2DS. So.
Oh, okay, there we go. Confirmed, yep.
So, yeah, that was, just wanted to shout that out.
No, that's a good one.
I don't know if you heard over there, but, Aiden said, yeah, we did. I have yellow on my 2DS.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So back on that, yes. And then we do have a couple more questions. So Lionheart Game 13 said, what is your favorite game ever? Directing that to you.
Yeah, that's such a great question. It's such a tough one. Like I have a few different answers, but if we were going by what my favorite game experience of all time was at the time it came out, it'd be Mario 64. That game blew my mind as a kid. I had so fun. It's like, wow, this is what games can be. Like this fully realized 3D worlds. You're climbing mountains, climbing trees, dodging Goombas and bombs. It was so freaking cool. I love that. But the game I find myself going back to, every few years and having a blast with still, even after all this time, is Super Mario Galaxy 2. I just cannot get enough of that game. Every time I play it, I have a ton of fun, and I think that game is basically a perfect game. It's just so fun. It took what the first game did well, built on it, and I just have a complete joy the entire way through.
I was so disappointed that wasn't on 3D All-Stars, and also more disappointed that they didn't try to sell it to us separate, because I would have bought it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, like they have, give us a remaster of that, like Metroid Prime. I would pay $60 for that. It's such a great game. But it was weird that was like the one game not included effectively on the All-Star collection. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah, that I love 2. 2's often overlooked as well. And I just think that's a phenomenal game. It did, polished on everything that 1 did.
Yes.
I love that. I was so upset. Switch and any capacity. Sure.
Lionheart Game 13 is also asking, are you into Metroid 2D games?
To an extent. I'm not the biggest 2D Metroid fan. I am more of a Prime guy, but I have, I probably didn't beat Metroid until Super Metroid the last 10 years or so. I still thought that game was really good though. And then even with I replayed or played for the first time Metroid Fusion and then Metroid Zero Mission a few years ago as well. Okay. And I thought both were fun as well. But I think there's just something about them that I don't find myself pulled to, like gravitated to all that much. So I'm checking them out more as a more as like a historian, like, ooh, what's Metroid's history that I missed out on? Because even the new one, what's it called? Dread, thank you, Metroid Dread.
Mhm.
I played a few hours of. I'm like, all right, I'm good, got my fill. But maybe 10 years from now, I'll be like, all right, let me go check out that game that everyone loved back then and see what it's about.
Yeah, I did a post today, asking if there's a game that like you haven't completed or stuck on, and that is one where I'm right at the very end at the last boss of the game. Still
Oh,
can't beat
Dread.
it.
I've heard that
Yeah,
boss is extremely tough.
yeah, and they've since added an easy mode with an update. I haven't gone back. I need to at some point. I'm glad they added that in, but yeah, boy, you have to. It's one of those bosses where you have to be exactly accurate.
Oh
I'm not
man,
good with those because like
yeah,
it's like a Dark Souls esque sort of thing where you got to really be honed in. Like you can't make any mistakes. Um, yeah, I'm not great. Got very
yeah.
impatient.
That's not my favorite kind of challenge, like the pinpoint accuracy ones.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It was very tough, but great
Yeah.
game though. Really, really good game. Yeah,
We
yeah.
have thinking inside the box saying, "Man, I would love to see Star Fox return and be something like the 64 release. I'm talking a new game, not yet another remake or remaster. Ever since the blunder of Adventure, it's been owed."
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they keep rebooting this series. Why can't they just make a freaking sequel? They rebooted it twice now. So there's 3 takes on the same story,
Mhm.
and they never. Yeah, Nintendo never quite figured out what to do with that series after the first. After Star Fox 64, I would say. Um, yeah, so I would love for them to revisit it and do something more, and maybe figure out like a path forward for like, hey, what's the gameplay style look like for that we can continue to make down the line. I think the last attempt was Beyond Star Fox Zero was the Ubisoft Starlink, Star Fox crossover. I thought that was actually interesting. I actually
Mhm.
kind of wish they had just made it a full Star Fox game. I think there would have been potential there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure they will revisit at some point. It's just like, just tell a new story. Don't reboot it again. Just make a sequel. Just follow it up. We know who the characters are at this point. We don't care. It doesn't matter if Andros is back or not. Just do something. Just figure it out.
Does hot take? Does the story even really matter with Star Fox? I just want to play the game. I just like the gameplay. Although
Yeah.
adventure, like I do like adventure. Just get a lot of.
Mhm.
Whenever I go back to it, I'm just taken back by the production quality. Like that game still looks good. It's got great graphics. The fur tech still impressive, and yeah, it's I like the R-wing missions. Then
Randy, don't
Mhm.
you have the physical copy of Dinosaur Planet? You not have that one yet.
No, I don't have that one yet.
That's really cool to check out. I played it on the 64 EverDrive, and that's really neat to see, like progression for Fox Adventure.
yeah, but I remember reading about those like the previews and seeing the early videos back in the day, and I always
Mhm.
wanted to see what that version of the game was like.
They should do. I would love to see a dinosaur.
Yeah,
Yes.
It's like really cool.
I know it's like sad when you hear about these like games that aren't finished, the earlier things, like things that just weren't like put out there or like where things started, they were abandoned, like we were talking um at one point when we were going over some trivia questions about the what was it? The Mario volleyball game,
Oh yeah.
Spikers, and then it was like kind of like wrestling a little bit and then with like the volleyball stuff, and it's like I get it was, too violent, but at the same time, like we had other like similar style games. So it's wild that like things are picked and chosen and, abandoned and it's kind of wild.
I still want a Mario wrestling game.
yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yeah, I thought that sports mix. Give us another sports mix where you get a mix of several. That was cool.
Yeah, to go away, kind of test the waters too, see like what sport
Mhm.
might be viable to do something else with.
Yeah.
Right.
Like I always like the hockey game in that one, and they've never done a full proper Mario hockey. With I think they could.
I mean, they
Yeah,
could do
there's
like Mario
plenty of
darts.
options.
Yeah, Mario ping pong. Like
Heck yeah, sign me up. I'm there.
Anything, like just little things. I mean,
Rockstar's table tennis was pretty.
That was.
on the Wii.
No, that was on the 360. Oh yeah, it was on the Wii, wasn't it? You're right.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
I
okay.
have. I think I have one of those.
It's actually kind of fun. It's like a tech demo.
Yeah.
It looks like we had somebody asking if you like F-Zero.
Oh yeah, I actually just maybe 6 months ago I went back and replayed F-Zero GX. I went through the whole story mode. I haven't done that since release. Because I remember, I remember it being impossible. I remember it's gained a reputation over the years for being impossible. And I played it, I'm like, it's not that bad actually. I actually didn't have too much trouble with it. Maybe I'm just really good, but I don't think I am. But I had a blast. That game still holds up. That game looks amazing. If they just remaster that game, add online, that's all you need to do. That's how you test the waters of F-Zero, see if there's still a market
We need
for it
it.
potentially. Sorry.
I'm just saying we need it.
Yeah, exactly. I would love it. So
Okay.
I'm a big F-Zero fan. I mean, I still remember getting the original game for my 8th birthday, decades ago, and loving it back then. So please, just give us another. It's been too long. And they teased us with that Nintendo Land F-Zero minigame, which kind of sucked, but it's all we had. So I'm like, I'll take it.
But man, I would love a new Nintendo Land. Though. Man, that just in general, like there were
Yes.
games on there that were very, very fun.
Yeah, it's like the whole asymmetrical thing was awesome. I love that, like having one player in one role and everyone else in a different role.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I've actually gone more into that these days because I've been playing Dead by Daylight and now the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which are both like asymmetrical horror games. Which, if you look back, Nintendo Land almost kind of invented it with Luigi's Ghost Mansion, where you had the one versus 4. And yeah, I would love. And Nintendo even back then was like making a big deal about this, this new type of gameplay. Then they didn't really do it again. They just kind of abandoned the idea. And it's like, no, there's so much potential there, and I would love to see them embrace it again, especially with them doing a lot more online stuff these days. I think there's a lot of potential there. Like, what if Splatoon had like a asymmetrical mode or something? I think that could be a great way to test the waters.
I feel like some of those Nintendo Land games could have been, could have expanded into like full-fledged games sort of thing.
Yeah. Like, or even their own like standalone, mini releases. Like, add some more content, make it cheaper. I would pay like $20 for its own Luigi's Ghost Mansion game, or what was it? The Animal Crossing one was hilarious too. Yeah,
I think the Mario Chase one
was
fun too.
Yeah, that was.
I remember like in the Zelda one.
There
was a couple stinkers on there. In general. Yeah.
All the single player games I couldn't quite get into, but the multiplayer stuff was gold. Even the Metroid, I actually really enjoyed that Metroid shooter that they had on it.
That was fun.
Yep.
That was a lot of fun. For sure. We got Retroland saying good evening. Ernesto coming. Trepid Girl saying hello. Ernesto also saying Brandon don't.
Yeah.
What did I say? I don't remember.
I don't know, but I'll take that. Someone on my side. Thank you.
So we got asking what's your input, Game Raymer, what's your input in this stuff?
I'm excited for a lot of different games. I'm hoping that I can find a little bit more time to dive in. I know that I think it was Ernesto was asking about Pikmin 4, and then you had already touched on it a little bit, and you're a fan of like the original, the first. I'd like to jump into that and kind of compare it a little bit to see if it's like how I kind of remember, because it's been so long since I've played it, like some of the earlier ones. So I'd like to jump into those games and just kind of see. But yeah,
just don't give us another Hey Pikmin.
Yeah, I don't think anyone wants Hey Pikmin 2.
But we do need a new Chibi Robo game. Right, that last one was awful too. But I'd be down for that all day. Series.
I miss that. I've never actually played much of a Chibi Robo. I feel like I missed out.
It's terrible. Yeah, you got to. You got to go back and play it.
Definitely like a good one to try out.
It's weird, but like it works for some reason.
Yes.
The whole thing with it, the one on the DS is really fun too. Here was a
Whiplash
Park Patrol.
Oh, got it. Yeah, okay.
Ziplash. That was the one of 3DS. Ziplash, yeah. So I think I'd back for. Trepid Girl asks, would Pikmin work on PlayStation as?
Maybe I think. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's an existing brand that would work well. They probably need a new one. But we have seen like some Pikmin spin-offs before. I forget. There was one. I forget what it was called, where like you control like little demons or something, and it's very Pikmin-like. So I would love to actually have more games explored that idea. I think there've been a couple indie ones too that did something similar. But
yeah, no, I there's definitely some other indie games similar.
actually, yeah, I will say that I think there's even more you could do in that space. Like, for instance, with when Foam Stars was first announced, everyone's like, "That's a Splatoon ripoff." But then we found out more about it. It's like that actually looks interesting. Like it's a similar mechanic to Splatoon, but doing some new things. So I would love it if we actually saw a PlayStation version of Pikmin. Like, what else can you do with this idea if you're not married to how it is currently?
Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to ask you too because you mentioned it. What do you think about the Texas Chainsaw?
Oh, I'm having a ton of fun with it. I don't know. Have you played like Dead by Daylight at all?
Yeah, I played more of Friday the 13th.
Okay, right.
Sort of same concept.
So I actually So I got into Dead by Daylight only about 6 months ago. So I'm super late to it. But I've already put in nearly 1,000 hours. I'm addicted to this game, or I'm hooked on it, as you might say. But then after that, I'm still playing it. But then I ventured into Friday the 13th because I heard good things about that. Yeah. I couldn't quite get into it. I think also I missed the window, which it was just an amazing game from what I've heard, like just a hilarious antics. But playing Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I'm having a lot of fun with it because it feels like a kind of refined version of Friday the 13th. Like it's almost like a combination of that and Dead by Daylight. But what I like about this one too is it kind of like Friday the 13th. It feels very stealth focused. There's kind of more what I expected Dead by Daylight was going to be originally. And I like Dead by Daylight. I like Dead by Daylight for what it is now, but I also like this game for being way more, a little bit slower paced. You really have to think about every action. You just can't run your way out of every scenario. Like you really want to avoid getting caught in this game, and I'm really liking it. So it's a lot of fun. It really makes me think about it differently, even if on the surface it sounds similar. It's very distinct and it's thrilling. Like what I like about it is it really makes it feel like you're in a horror movie. I've never quite felt that from any other multiplayer game. Like this actually feels like you're in the Texas Chainsaw universe, and you have to survive.
That sounds amazing.
It's so cool.
Super excited to play it. I have it downloaded, ready to go. I got to check that out in the next. But yeah, a lot of people are playing it. I see a lot of people streaming it. It's like
I should be streaming it. I'm just wasting my time by just playing it for fun and not streaming it.
Oh, heaven forbid you have fun.
I know.
I love it. Looks like we got some more comments. We got
we got a ton that just came in.
Do you want to
So, I think we already answered. Trepid Girl, Xbox said, "What games do you play now?" I think we're already answering quite a few of those. And are you playing Xbox or PlayStation stuff? You explained earlier that it's not only just Nintendo based. It's you enjoy a lot of other ones. But we do have a few comments as well. Chase is in here saying, "Holy crap! 1,000 hours in a game says something good." And then. Super Aiden, thanks for joining. Anyways, I gotta go. Enjoy the rest of this. See you soon. So thanks for stopping in and all the awesome questions.
Yeah, thanks for dropping by. Aiden's always in our live stream, so it's fun seeing them here.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. We have Millennial Collector Ohio saying, "Hey y'all, happy Sunday." And then we do have a couple questions from Catching Daisies. Can we hear more about GameXplain? What are you focusing on now, and how you get so many subscribers? How to get over 1 million subscribers? That's crazy. So they keep commenting about that. So
well, I mean, it took a while. That's been 13 years of work now. So there's if there is an easy way to do it, I don't have the answer, but I would say in a grander sense, just having passion for what you do, try to do, either unique things or, be quick with what, or cover hot topics, try, be quick or be really good. That's the two main ways of being successful on YouTube, I'd say. And also, be passionate about. You don't want to be making content for things you don't care about, and that'll not only wear you out, but also reflect in your content. And it's hard to be enthusiastic about things that you're just doing to try and grow your audience. To cover things you're passionate about for sure, and the success will come in time. As for what we're focusing on now on the channel, Yeah, we're kind of in a bit of a lull period of Nintendo because, like, Tears of the Kingdom and Pikmin 4 are both out now, and now we're waiting for the next bigger games, which of course are Super Mario Bros. Wonder and Mario RPG Remake, with a few smaller releases before then, like WarioWare. So right now we're kind of just doing more random stuff. We're actually bringing back an older series that we haven't touched an older series on the channel, video series that we haven't done in quite a few years now. So I'm hoping people enjoy us bringing that back.
Nice.
And yes, we're kind of using this time to experiment. We're working on another show idea that we'll hopefully have out in the near future. So yeah, so we're covering the news by and large and trying out some new ideas in the meantime, and hopefully that'll be exciting for our audience.
Very cool. Yes. And they just keep throwing in the questions. So we have a couple more. Do you do old vintage game stuff or only new? And then will you be at any California game conventions?
Yeah, we cover old stuff. I mean, we are largely a news focused channels. We're covering the hot new stuff, but every now and then we do venture into, like we'll celebrate anniversaries for big games. We'll do like in-depth discussions on them for like a game's 10th, 20th, or 30th anniversary. We'll look back at old press conferences, and I myself, as I touched on earlier, I do have an interest in older games. I've been wanting to do more analytical type things myself, so I think you will see even more of that on the channel soon. But yeah, especially now with the Switch Online service, like we're always covering whenever a new game gets added to that, we're always covering it, whether it's like a retro review or retro tips and tricks for it. So yeah. As for California convention, so I actually used to live in California in San Francisco. Unfortunately, since I moved back, since I moved back to Seattle, I've barely been back to California. So if E3 ever properly returns, I'm sure I'll be there. But I was at basically every E3 up to that point. Beyond that, I don't see myself returning for any other specific convention, just because I'm not a huge convention guy. But if you're ever up in Washington, I do attend PAX here, which is happening in, I think, about 2 weeks from now. So we'll be there. Aside from that, if I'm ever in the area when California Extreme is happening, I used to go to that show pretty often. So there's a small chance I could reappear there just to hang out, because I always like all the classic pinball and arcade machines they have at that show.
So out of curiosity, what do you not like about convention? It's just the crowds being congested.
Yeah, it's partially the crowds, and especially in this post-COVID world. Not that that's the main thing. It's more that I don't even know. I don't even fully know what it. I think it's the lines. I'm not a huge fan of waiting in line. So that applies to E3 or any gaming show where you have an expo hall. But of course, PAX is so much more than just the expo halls. But a lot of it is you can play rent classic consoles to play those with friends, which is cool. But I don't know. For me, it's just a lot of hassle navigating the crowds. And my favorite thing, honestly, is just meeting our fans. I love whenever getting recognized there or having a meetup and meet and greet with our fans. That's by far my favorite part. I think, and to be fully fair to these conventions, I approach it now from largely a work perspective. So it's hard to divorce covering it for work from just going for fun. And so when I see PAX, I'm there's several days of work on the weekend I didn't want to do before. So I think if I didn't have the whole work thing tied up into it, I might enjoy it more as a fan. But since I've been to so many conventions now, they all just kind of feel the same to me. And it's hard to get excited for just being around a lot of people for not a lot of gain for me personally. But my least favorite thing to do is wait in line for a game and stand there when I'm already sore from waiting in line for to play it down over 20 minutes. I'm I'd rather just wait for it to come out and play it at home. But people want us to cover the course, so we are there covering it. But yeah.
I get that. I wouldn't want to necessarily wait in line either, but channels.
Yeah.
Do you always go to PAX?
I think I have been to every PAX since it started. I mean, maybe I missed a year or two in there, but I was literally at the first PAX, which I think was in 2003, back when they hosted at the Bellevue Maidenbauer Center, a really small convention center. Only a couple thousand people attended, and it was amazing. I actually loved that. I actually really liked the smaller feel of it. The expo hall was literally a single tiny room where you had maybe 6 games being shown off, and I kind of really miss those days. Back before it blew up and turned into a whole thing where it took over all of downtown Seattle. So, yeah. But yes, I've been to every show since. I think basically every show since then.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, and Deciphon entered the chat and said, "Good afternoon, buds. Hi there, guest. Haven't seen your channel, but just subscribed."
Oh,
So
awesome!
that's
Thank
awesome.
you. Welcome.
And then right here, oh, okay, asking what was your favorite E3, and then talking about PAX, saying PAX East question mark, and just asking about, I guess, like those
Yeah,
type of conventions.
I've only been to one PAX East, the very first one. This was back in
Mhm.
God 2010 now. I think. Oh man, it's forever ago. So yeah, I would love to make it back out to the East, to Boston someday for. I think it's still in Boston for another PAX East one of these days.
Mhm.
So we'll see. Favorite E3? Oh man, again, I've either been to most of them or seen so many of them. But I think my overall favorite still is still the first one I attended, which is E3 2001. I was only 16 then. You were supposed to be 18, but they were loose back in the day. They really didn't care too much about who attended. And I remember going to I went on behalf of a website I was writing for at the time, being Nintendo Joe, and we got into the Nintendo press conference and being able to see Nintendo legends at the time, like Miyamoto up on stage, or the then leadership of Nintendo of America, which I think included Howard Lincoln and Peter Main, I think, if I have the names right. Maybe not Peter Main. Is that the Sega guy? No, I think it was Peter Main. Anyways, so cool, and being able to play the GameCube, before release, playing all these amazing looking games like Rogue Leader, Luigi's Mansion, Pikmin, Smash Brothers. Like, it was so freaking cool. It was like overwhelming. It's like, man, this is everything I imagined to be and more, from like reading about it in Nintendo Power and all that. So that was still my favorite. Like that first initial experience, and I think both because it was my first, but also because the lineup was amazing. Just seeing the GameCube in person was so cool.
Yeah, that would have been awesome for sure. I
Yeah,
always
especially
like.
because it felt. Well, sorry, go ahead,
Oh,
please.
no, I was just gonna say I always like going back and watching of past or like
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nintendo
it's like
Space
wow.
Worlds or all those old shows. Super cool. Like when they showed off the Virtual Boy. You guys ever seen the Virtual Model?
I feel like I must have, but I'm drawing
I
a
feel like
blank right
I
now.
have, but it's not popping up in my head.
Yeah, just like kind of seeing like all of those, like the DS when they unveiled the DS and it looked entirely different. I love seeing that stuff.
I played that original DS model, yeah, at
Did you?
E3. Yep, back when they showed off
Wow.
Metro. Actually, I forget if Metro was playable, but they had a bunch of tech demos, including a Pac-Man game where you drew Pac-Man. I think it eventually released as
Yeah.
some kind of game. But yeah, that early model was so interesting. It had like a lot of silver on it, I
Yeah.
think, or yeah, yeah. It's crazy too. That was only 6 months before release, so they must have been moving quick then to
Yeah.
change it
Right.
further.
Yeah. No, it wasn't far before. Do you guys remember? I think it was for the DS2. They showed like a demo with all the Mario's like on the little planet
Yeah,
running
that's
around.
Oh, yeah.
that wasn't at E3, but they showed it off at Space World, I think a few months
Mhm.
or a little bit before, or the prior year before E3, that E3. And yeah, that was so cool. That was basically, I think, like almost a predecessor to Pikmin. Just like all of these little characters running around. You see like Mario's like murdering each other by rolling them off ledges. It was so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Super cool.
even like the celebrities and stuff that they brought in, like we did something for a short on like the Xbox and having like The Rock and just like seeing all these like celebrities involved in like these like crazy different time periods.
Yeah.
And then there's Dreamcast pictures that circulate around where you have you know, Melissa Joan Hart playing and you have like all these like people like playing like those Dreamcast kiosks, and it's just like it's wild seeing those throwbacks because it's like you kind of remember that stuff briefly or like you can like relate to it, and it's crazy to see like that we're so far
Yeah.
from that time.
Yeah, I remember seeing pictures recently, I think maybe from that same E3 I mentioned, where we saw, or within the subsequent years, where Jason Alexander from Seinfeld was playing a GameCube, and I think they may have had Paris Hilton at some point. It's like, yeah, you don't see Nintendo do that so much these days.
No. Yeah, they did a lot of the celebrity stuff.
So
I mean,
long.
like all the obviously it's one of the E3 of these were ads, but all like the
Right.
Robin Williams stuff. It's really cool. Every time they did that, I loved all those just super unique ads with celebrities.
Jack Black, the original like Atari Pitfall.
Yeah,
like,
isn't that crazy?
Jack is like a younger.
I didn't know that. Was he an ad for it or something? Or
Yes.
Oh, that's crazy.
That
I had
was
no
his
idea.
first gig, right? Like his
That's
first
awesome.
It was his first
public sorta-
commercial.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so
super
cool.
cool to see for sure. I love that stuff. You have any questions?
Yes. Just a couple more, and then we have a question that was on our list. So let's see. Could you imagine if they brought E3 back on a grand scale? That's Trepid Girl Xbox, and then also asking, what's your guys' favorite Xbox?
Probably 360.
I think 360.
I have to say,
Not that it's
360
the
was a great console. I think I'll always have a soft spot for the original Xbox, but it felt like such like a big leap forward. You know, like online gaming, get a hard drive built in, and some of my favorite. Like that was my first real experience with online gaming at all, and I think some of those experiences are unmatched. Like Halo 2 and Splinter Cell and Burnout. Like I loved all those games.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah. Whatever
And
happened
then,
to Splinter Cell? They need to bring that back.
Right?
What are they doing? Missed
Yeah,
opportunity.
I was literally just like Googling a few days ago, like where, why haven't they brought back Spies versus Mercs, or Splinter Cell in general? And I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. It's such a great great gameplay idea, especially with asymmetrical again becoming a bigger thing these days. Like people would be more excited now for it, I think, than back then.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, we have a couple more people. I'm saying, someone I think is saying we've talked back PAX 2015. I want to say.
Oh, really? Oh, that's awesome. Do you
Nice.
were we at the Nintendo booth or something when you ran into me? That's so cool. That's my favorite thing is just running into people at PAX. That's my by far the highlight.
That's super cool.
Yeah, I'll wait and see if they throw a little bit more about that. And then people are saying yes, that they wish they could bring it back to its glory, talking about like E3 being back on a grand scale. And then the Retro Wildlands is saying, don't forget we have Nicolas Cage and Dead by Daylight.
Yes,
Yeah.
I love that. Like I feel like I got into this game at the perfect time. Nicolas Cage just dropped. Aliens coming soon, which I've been playing in the beta on PC. And it's like, man, this is a great time for this game. Nicolas Cage is hilarious. Like I've been playing exclusively as him since he came out. What, almost a month ago at this point, probably 3 weeks ago, maybe. And I'm still hearing new lines from him. I'm like, how much do they record for this guy? Like he's talking constantly. It's all hilarious.
That's great though. That shows a lot of attention to detail.
I wonder if they did record. I wonder if there was any way they could have like recycled stuff, all the AI stuff now, pull things he said from the bajillion of movies.
Maybe they just like hooked the microphone up to him. They're still just recording him to this day. They're just like pulling out random sound bites. Whatever he says that day is now in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to try that with Nicolas Cage. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I haven't played Dead by Daylight in a while. But that one made me want to come back into it. Sure.
Yeah, it's fun.
Mystically said it's AI. So, I mean, it very well could be. And then Mystically's also said, whatever happened to Overlord?
Yeah. What did happen What happened to a lot of Xbox?
Yeah, there's a lot of games that just kind of disappeared. Like,
where'd they go? Overlord. That sounds so familiar, but
bet if you saw the box art.
Yeah, it has like the crazy cover. Yeah.
Yeah, what
Oh wait! Is that the Pikmin game I was talking about earlier?
Yeah,
with the demons. I think
that's like a Pikmin-esque game.
That's hilarious. I think that was the one I was talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. I think like what about like all the other non-Splinter Cell, but like all the other Tom Clancy properties? What happened to all those? Do you remember how we
that was
had,
a huge brand.
50 Tom Clancy games on the original Xbox?
Yeah. Now is
there
it just Rainbow Six?
And then there was a lot more.
And it's just Rainbow Six these days, right? I feel like.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Strange.
Yeah, and it's all
so many.
just the online one. Yeah.
Oh, okay. They said yes. Talked about Zelda. I guess.
Oh, that's awesome. That makes sense. Oh, that's great. Well, good seeing you again.
Very
2015.
cool.
That would have been Breath of the Wild too, right?
That would have been yeah, we might have been talking about that. That's right. They had been announced by that point. Yeah, so we probably we may have discussed that.
That's awesome.
And then we have a question that we like to ask all of our guests. What are your very first gaming memories?
Oh man, I don't know for sure if it was my first game or not, but I think it very well might have been. I remember when I was a kid, I used to be tongue-tied, like when I was super young, and so I had to go in and have surgery for that, like super minor surgery. And I was in such pain coming home that my parents were like trying to distract me with something, and so my dad put me on his computer, and he had received like a free game in the mail or something where like you played as like a little like construction equipment, like a little mower or like a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a bulldozer type thing, and you like push shapes around. I tried to look for this game since. I found no record of it. Maybe this game doesn't even exist anymore. I don't know, or ever existed even. Maybe I made it all up in a fever dream. But I remember like just pushing little shapes around as this like construction equipment and having a blast with it, and that might have been what started my passion for gaming. Is just like that first initial experience.
What system
around
was that for?
It was PC. So something I
Probably
think it's just a standard
game.
PC.
That sounds so familiar to me.
Maybe I should look it up. I'll look up Tonka games.
It sounds
I don't know.
Familiar.
All I remember it was a black background. You played as like a little yellow bulldozer, and you push shapes. And I don't know what you did with those shapes. I don't even know what the goal was anymore. So I would love to find some record of this game existing.
That has to be it.
I have a Tonka PC game. Give me a sec. I want to grab it.
Oh, really? Oh, boy. Man, if we find out if this is the game, I'm going to lose my mind here.
You heard it here first. You heard it here first. We are discovering those childhood memories on the air.
I want to know, like, what this game actually looks like. Does it match my memory at all, Like, I would love to find out.
I hope he can find it. I hope it's, like, not, like, tucked away in, like, the third drawer down, like, something back, like, somewhere.
Yeah, right.
Hopefully he can find it.
Well, while we wait, I will say another one of my other possible first gaming experiences, probably shortly after that, if not possibly before, but I think it would have been after, was my mom bought an Atari 2600 from a coworker at work, and so I had that and all the games. Oh man, it's possible that shit. Is there gameplay images on it?
No, there's no gameplay, but there's other Tonka games too.
Oh, okay, what's
there are a bunch.
Is it on a floppy disk?
This one is not, but I remember the one that I played back in the day was on a floppy disk.
That vehicle looks like that could have been it. So I'm.
It probably is on a floppy too, because this is Windows 95. So like there was definitely something before that for like even DOS and stuff.
All right, I'm gonna do some research into this. Maybe this Tonka, this might be the right path. So thanks for introducing me to this. I'm gonna do some hardcore research when we're done here. See if I can find it. I think it may have been a DOS game. So maybe there's a DOS version. Maybe.
Yeah, that sounds right. Because I definitely I would have played.
Right.
I don't know. I got this like in a bundle or something. Very interesting. Love it.
No, I'm like down this whole rabbit hole now. I'm like, there's so many Tonka games.
She's looking up. Lurgita said, "Gamer Ahmer, I am jealous of your stuff. How do you make the time to?"
I don't know. I'll let you know. No, so typically every year I do like a video game room tour. I did not do one this year because I had Retro Wolf 88 come out, and he did such an amazing job making a video game room tour. But I like to go through and do like a massive clean where I just dedicate time, like after work, I dedicate time like here and there on weekends and stuff, just to go through, pull things off the shelf, just give everything a great dust, and I'll like kind of break it up into different sections so that I don't like overwhelm myself or like do too much. And then, whenever I get certain games, if something seems like appealing, like with my Super Nintendo series of collecting all the games, I got some real heavy ones today. Real great deals, like 50% off. Like, yeah, like
I didn't hear about these.
Couple $100 game. Yeah, like
I thought wedding planning all day.
No. So yeah, this was like insane. So I did get to go through, and at my buddy's house where we were kind of like going over some things, I was able to play a couple of them just like briefly, or like watch him play some of them. So I want to go through and play some. It's just, you just gotta take a little bit of time here and there to get through certain things, and I'm sure like you guys understand too. Like you're doing multiple different games. You have 1,000 hours in the one game, and you've beat a couple of the other like crazy games. So it's just wild. You just have to set aside a little bit of time, and then I guess prioritize certain things. Is that what you do, or
Yeah, that's what it comes down to, right? Just prioritizing what free time you have. Well, I guess what you can do for work, what you can do for fun, and whatever time is left over. I guess so. That's why I think I turned into more of like a multiplayer gamer recently, but I feel like there's not much time investment. Like I can hop on for a few rounds and end up playing a ton. Hey, great. But whereas like a game like open world games like that feels like a huge time commitment. Like do I want to commit 100 hours to beat this game? Probably not. But will I randomly invest 1,000 hours in this multiplayer game? Yeah, maybe. But knowing I can quit at any time, I think is a good motive for starting that. Like I didn't start playing Dead by Daylight with the intent of playing 1,000 hours. It just ended up happening that way.
Nice.
Yeah, have you played Dead by Daylight, Brandy?
No, I haven't. Remember, I think we were talking about one of like the new something that came out, and I grabbed my copy and it was still sealed.
Oh yeah,
but
I've
heard great things about it. I just have not. I played Friday the 13th, and then I died a lot, so then I quickly moved on to something different.
Yeah, I was not good at Friday the 13th. I felt like that game had a bit of a steeper learning curve. That might be why I bounced off pretty quick.
Maybe I'll try it then. If you're saying it's not as difficult as
Yeah, it's a little. It's not. I mean, there's still a bit. There's still some weird things I'll take some getting used to, but I definitely found it easier to get into than
maybe I'll give it a try. Not 1,000 hours, but I'll try it.
If you have a Game Pass, it's free on there too. If you have an Xbox.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, I was terrible at Friday the 13th. I wanted to like it because I'm a big fan of the franchise. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't think it was a great game either.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it had a lot of issues.
It's a little janky.
For sure.
Oh, another question. I love that you have that stuff, but do you enjoy the toys or games more? I'd have to say the video games. I do, enjoy the toys as well, but I feel like I played them more as a kid. Now I just relive the memories. But a question for you now relating to that, do you collect certain items? Do you collect any toys, memorabilia, anything of that sort?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
Let me. I mentioned that I was on a big retro Game Boy kick. Retro kick in general, but in particular Game Boy. So I don't know if I would say I've been collecting them. Like I'm not trying to get them all, but there's like 1,000 Game Boy games or something. But I have definitely grown my collection a lot. Outside of that, no, I actually. Yeah, I think that really has been it. It's been I guess maybe I've dabbled a little bit more grabbing some retro Nintendo powers too. Like I used to subscribe as a kid, so I had a ton of them before I threw them out when I moved, which I regret now. But I've been buying some of the older ones, including finally got the very first issue of Nintendo Power, which I've never even ever owned. So I'm looking forward to checking out at some point if I can ever bring myself to open the plastic wrapping it came in. It's been open before, but they rewrapped it. I'm like, I don't want to risk damaging it, So
yeah, I'm a big fan of Nintendo Power too. I like collecting those old issues.
Yeah, that was a fun magazine.
The covers are. We just saw an exhibit game on Expo called
Art of Nintendo Power.
Yeah, and
more of Nintendo Power.
Art of Nintendo.
Oh, that's all.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. I think. Do they have a Twitter account? I think I follow them.
Yeah.
Instagram, Twitter, I think all the socials.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, they have those clay models that they used for a bunch of those covers and stuff.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Very very neat stuff to see. See all the different cells that they use for images.
Yeah, this is stuff that's all been kind of lost. Obviously magazines in general, but even how they would, the art styles back then. They're now they all just use the same CG models that are in the game, basically. Whereas back then you'd have custom art, custom models, or puppets for Star Fox, and that's that's something we've kind of lost over time. Which for better or worse, it's more consistent now, but you lose a lot of that fun characteristics that these unique art styles give to this media.
Yeah, and that's a good segue to this question. What is Gaming Podcast said? How are you all? Are you guys a fan of video game writing too, or video only? So, I guess we can relate that to, I guess they want to know more specifically. You do a lot of video stuff. Do you dabble in the writing stuff? And then, I guess we can also relate that to the magazines as well. Remembering those more so from back in the day versus now a lot of things are video.
Sorry, so is a question, do I like writing in video games, or... Sorry, I got a little...
I think I'm probably asking, if you do video game writing or video only.
Yeah.
They said in your past as well.
Have I written for a video game, or... Sorry, I might be misunderstanding.
They might just be talking about reviews, and I'm not sure. Maybe
Because like there's some people who have like who do video content only. Some people write up reviews and do different things. I think maybe they're trying to ask something like that. Like how things used to be in magazines and different writing styles, if people prefer to do video versus writing. And I mean obviously we all do a lot of
I know I
videos.
can, like, for me that was kind of that's my background. That's where it started with.
Writing?
Years, yeah. 12, 13 years or something.
Yeah, that's how I got my start too. Because I was writing at a site called Game Boy Dojo, which is a spin-off of Nintendo Joe.
Oh, okay.
And then that got rolled into just Nintendo Joe. So I started off there and started working on a few other sites like Advanced GB, and that might have been it. And around that same time, I was making my own website using whatever HTML I knew then, and I would do writing there as well. And of course, for all the scripts we do these days, like we're still writing those as well. So yeah, and that's a great way to get started, is just do some writing, because those skills will translate over into video production. And as for like video game writing as well, if I'm reading that correctly, if I like video game writing, I like good video game writing, which isn't too. Nice. Obviously, I like bad video game writing. My point more is I like it when games are written entertainingly but succinctly. Like here's a good example. Pikmin 4 has a lot of arguably great dialogue, but there's so much of it that I just don't really care about because it doesn't quite fit the story and the gameplay for me, at least. Like I'm like, for this type of gameplay, I don't need this much talking. And so even though like every line might be written well, like it's also kind of taking away from the experience for me. So I like it when games find that happy medium where like it's, the focus is still on the gameplay, unless it's a very much a narrative-driven game, of course, and if the writing backs that up or supports it, like, hey, that's perfect. It's funny going back now to A Link to the Past, as I mentioned, because there's so little dialogue in that game. Like, it's so to the point, unlike modern Zeldas where there's a lot of talking. Yeah. And I'm like, and I feel like maybe there's a happy medium between the two that we could strike.
Yeah, no, I agree with you for sure. When there's too much text in a game, that's my problem with like graphic novels. Like
it's a lot.
Visual novels. Sorry. Yeah, I struggle with those. Like when I want to dive into a game, I know people love those, but like the Vitas, so many like visual novels on. When I turn on a game, like if I want to read, I don't know. I feel like I'll do it in like a physical book or a comic.
That's how I
book or
feel.
something.
Yeah,
it's very hard for me to like want to read all this text on it. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's just.
Even like movies too. When you go to like watch a movie and there's like some parts where you have to like read, I'm like, I just want to relax. I don't want to like read too. As you're like going through like the movies. But Aaron Castle saying, always a bummer when you skip the narrative and it includes important info on what to do next in the story.
Yes, yeah, that's the worst. Like that's why one of the things is like, oh, you don't like the cutscenes, we'll just skip it. It's like, well, I don't know if I can skip it. I know if I physically can. I don't know if I should be skipping it. I might miss something important.
Yes.
I will say Nintendo's had a pretty good trend recently where they've had this. I think a couple of games, including Pikmin 4, maybe Tears of the Kingdom, yes. Where you can like go back and read the dialogue that's already happened. So if you missed something, you can go back, or it gives you a recap of what's happened up to that point. I'm like, yeah, that's great. I want more of that in games, especially for Zelda, because like that's the kind of game where if I put it down, I guess it matters less in Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, but in the other Zelda games, like if you put it down for a few weeks and I come back, I have no idea what I was doing, and at that point, I usually just start over again. So.
Yeah, like Ocarina of Time's bad with that. There's definitely previous entries that are worse with that, where you're just like, where do I leave off? Like that's my problem with RPGs and coming back like before later.
Yeah,
like,
it's hard.
You might as well just not. Yeah, just either restart or whatever. It's tough.
Yeah,
sure. We got Retro Wildland saying, I think good writing takes the reader on a journey and doesn't just serve as passing on.
Yeah, great point.
And then Rocky said something about Rocky the Seal animation said, have you ever ate Among Us before?
Maybe like played Among Us before. Have you ever played Among Us?
I was my first experience with Among Us was in the VR version, and I got sucked into that for a good couple of weeks.
I need to try
It's
that
fun.
VR.
It's really fun. The downside is, especially it's probably even worse now. Maybe it's better. Actually, I don't even know. But there are a lot of kids on there, and the game depends on voice chat. Like you can play it without it, but you basically need voice chat. So you have a lot of kids screaming in your ear, like a lot of really young kids. And don't get me wrong, it's fun at times playing with them, but some of them are hyper annoying. So whenever I found like an adult lobby, I'm like, oh yes, please, no one leave. We've got a good group here. But putting that aside, it's a lot of fun. Playing in VR just adds a different dimension to it. It really makes it feel like more immersive, of course. And that's actually my favorite way of playing the game. I tried playing the standard release after. I'm like, I can't go back. It's VR or nothing for me.
That'd be interesting to try in VR. I heard about that. Like, there's a few things I want to try. I never tried Elder Scrolls in VR. I haven't tried that. Skyrim.
Yeah, I haven't either.
Yeah, I PSVR 2 is my first thing.
Oh, really? Well, hey, that's a great way to start. That's a super impressive headset.
It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's hard to find the time to dedicate to a VR session. It's a little bit harder with than even like regular.
Oh, 100%. Like, I feel like just even though it's simple, like just putting a thing on your head, like it's a barrier to entry. It's like it's something I need to be specifically in the mood for. Otherwise, I'm just gonna sit on the couch and turn on my TV.
Yeah, I agree. And you gotta, for me, like I kind of sort of have to make a move thing, so it's like a little extra.
Right.
Time for that one. So it's cool though. It's very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Fan of VR.
Yeah, it's fun.
Oh, we have Carl asking, with being a massive Nintendo fan, just wondering if you had any Sega games or series that you really like as well. He's a big Sega fan.
Yeah, you know what? The Dreamcast era for me was like kind of a magical era. Like that was actually probably my first Sega console I actually owned. I grew up a Nintendo kid, shocking, I know. But I would play the Genesis at my friend's house. But with a Dreamcast, I finally grabbed one, albeit when they went on sale for like $50. I'm like, I'd be stupid not to buy a Dreamcast at this point. Yeah. And I got like really into some of the games on that, like Crazy Taxi. I loved some of the Amigo, Sonic Adventure, Power Stone. Like these are all games like my friends and I we were hooked on. And I feel like I'm glad Sega's still around, but I feel like something was lost with them exiting the hardware business. And
I agree.
And so that they haven't been able to fully recapture. I thought, I thought they were really fun during that era. Like I remember the Dreamcast in particular was a really exciting time. Like that was the first. Like I felt like that was the first truly next gen system. It's like, wow, this feels like a big step up, and
it really
that was a super exciting time.
Yeah,
just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
What have you seen about? I forget what the name of it is, but that new Jet Set radio style game that just
how can I forget? Yes, I actually have a code for it. I haven't played it myself yet, but our reviewer loved it. He loved that game, and I'm like, I need to check it out. But I love Jet Set Radio on the Dreamcast, and in fact, right now is actually, if you're a Sega fan, a Dreamcast fan, now's actually a really good time because we have that spiritual successor, Cyber Bomb. What's it called?
Cyberfunk Bomb.
Cyberfunk.
I can't think of it. Yeah,
I was just watching a video on it last night.
Yeah, so that looks awesome. Again, a successor to Jet Set Radio, but then also we have a new Samba de Amigo coming out in like a week or two, which is freaking awesome. So like we're getting a little bite-sized Dreamcast, released here. I love it. So
I agree. I think that I know like the Sonic Overload is kind of weird, but I think that Sega or the Sonic Superstars looks pretty cool too. I think it looks.
Yeah.
I think it. Could be pretty cool.
No, good one actually. Yeah, Sega's on a bit of a we're on a bit of a winning streak with Sega right now. Like I actually really liked. I'm not the biggest 3D Sonic fan, but I really loved Sonic Frontiers. I actually had a ton of fun with that, way more than I expected to. Especially because they actually annoyed me at first, but after putting in a few hours to get past that annoyance, I'm like, this game's actually really good.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure. I think it's cool that we're gonna have 2D Mario versus 2D Sonic again. Like
same day, right?
Yeah.
I love that.
That's a long time, yeah.
Cool stuff. I love it, man. There's some cool stuff still coming out this year. Pretty excited. I really want to try that Cyberpunk game though.
Yeah, same here.
Pretty awesome. We have
Yeah, I'm
any
looking
more
forward.
questions?
Just a couple quick comments. Changeling said Dreamcast rules. Thinking Inside the Box said Sega just hit different. Carl said awesome picks. Thank you so much for the fantastic answer. Retro Wildland said I'm loving most of the Sega games I'm playing today that I missed out on. Streets of Rage 2 is my favorite. And then they're talking about recently playing it. They're all going back and forth on that. And then Escalated Friend said Sega Smega. I guess they play a lot of Nintendo in their household, it sounds like.
Still a Nintendo kid.
But yes, it's
Respect it.
Oh, they also have one more question too. Escalated Friend said, "What is your favorite RPG orgies of?"
Oh my god. Well, I'm gonna. My answer might be lame because I'm not a huge RPG guy, so therefore, some of my favorites are the Mario ones, like the original Mario RPG or Paper Mario and Thousand Year Door. Like, love those. I'm also, yeah, strangely enough, like I mentioned earlier, I'm super into the Pokemon trading card game, which I guess is kind of like an RPG. But if you want to look at a more conventional RPG, I was a big fan of Chrono Trigger back in the day and Earthbound as well. But I haven't played anything too recent in the RPG space in the last 10, 15 years. So I'm sure there's been some great ones since. I just haven't played them.
Nice, all the classics. I think that's good. A lot. They're saying, Escalated Friend, RPGs are hard to get into for some people.
Yeah, I think again it's a time commitment, like and the time commitment and the learning, like I look at games like Xenoblade Chronicles, by all accounts a great game, but I look at that battle system, like I don't want to learn it. There's like thousands of numbers.
A lot.
Yeah. It's a little off-putting for me, a little intimidating.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree. Retro Wildlands also said, where he said that about the most of the Sega games. So yeah, a lot of Sega love going on. But we really appreciate having you on, man. It's been awesome tonight. Do you have anything you want to plug that's coming up soon?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. It's been a ton of fun just talking, reminiscing. As for what we're working on, yeah, I touched on it earlier, but we're bringing back a classic series. People, I think, if you're a longtime fan of GameXplain, you'll be excited for. It's probably not the first one that comes to mind, but maybe the second one that comes to mind. So stay tuned for that. That should be a lot of fun. That'll be out within hopefully a week or two at most. Beyond that, of course, just stay tuned for us for upcoming coverage of what will probably be a September Direct. We'll be there covering all the trailers for the new Mario games and whatever else they show off. And of course, we'll be covering PAX and Gamescom as well. I won't be at Gamescom myself, but I will be at PAX West. So stay tuned for coverage from all those shows.
Very cool.
You have a ton coming up. It sounds like going to be an eventful rest of the year for you. Nintendo Direct is definitely coming too. And we'll be sure to we'll be sure to plug all your stuff down below. And again, we appreciate having you on, man. It's been awesome tonight. And we will see you guys all again very soon.